Vietnam podcast. My name is Niall Mackay and I'm your host. This is season 6. Don't forget you can go back through the whole catalogue and find all 5 seasons of 7 Million Bikes. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications. Follow 7 Million Bikes on Facebook. Go on there and give it a like. We're also on Instagram. If you do enjoy this content, then please go on the link in the notes for patreon.com and you can become a member of a Vietnam podcast and you get some cool benefits like free tickets. You'll get early bonus content as well. If you just want to buy me a coffee, there's also a link in the show notes. You can send me a coffee as well. So thank you very much to the previous people that sent me coffees. They were very much enjoyed. So very, very much appreciated. So enjoy 7 Million Bikes, a Vietnam podcast. I'm excited to introduce my guest today. She has a restaurant in Houston, Texas, where she spends half of her time pre-pandemic. 3 restaurants in Saigon. Is a celebrity chef who's been featured on NBC, US Today, and currently has 3 shows on Netflix. My guest today is Nickie Tran. Well, the world is so complex now because of, migration, I guess. We have these mixings of cultures, so to me, I find it interesting, and I love talking to people like yourself because it exposes me to these different ways of thinking and cultures. Because I'm from Scotland, and my family are all white. And I'm from a monoculture. I'm not exposed to that mixing of cultures. And so I can, from the amount of people I've spoken to on the podcast and in real life, I know that it's so challenging and so difficult because you've got these opposing views almost coming together, and the mums and dads, parents have moved their children to somewhere for a better life, like you said, or a different education or whatnot. But then they still impose those cultural beliefs that they've taken with them, and it must be so difficult for you then. So how did your parents react to you moving back and forth between countries, going from working for Macron to then being a chef? How did that play out?
They don't like it too much, but they're very supportive though. They worry me not having a family, a traditional family, or not having a partner, and they worry for my health, and they said, like, why can't you stay in one place? But I think overall they're still very supportive. But one thing I have to tell you about the parents with the kids in the US, some parents, Vietnamese parents, I feel that they're doing it wrong. I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but they try so hard to give the kids a better life that they let the kids speak English only. They want the kids to be fully American. But on the other hand, like you said, that impose those, cultural beliefs on them. However, when the kids grow up, they can't not connect to their parents through languages because the parents don't speak English that well. And you should see that, and I have seen so many families like that. The kids just don't speak Vietnamese at all. And to me, it's just another language. It's just as important as English. The more you know, the better.
It's funny you say that because I've just interviewed Lam Visai on the show, and he's Laotian, Vietnamese, and German. He says, and so he wasn't taught Vietnamese growing up, and then got the opportunity to move to Vietnam, but couldn't speak the language. So for him, when we talked about it, it was the most challenging thing. He does speak it now fluently, and he thinks, obviously because he comes from that background, he probably picked it up easier than maybe someone like I would. But it still took him 2 years to learn the language. And even for my wife, so her mum and dad are Mexican American, spoke Spanish. All of our extended family speak Spanish. But exact same thing that you said, her mum and dad brought her and her sister up just to speak English and didn't teach them Spanish because, again, they wanted them to have those opportunities and give them just the same thing that you're talking about. But now she wished she could speak Spanish,
But kids learn very fast, they can learn like several languages at the same time. So why do you want to take that opportunities away from them? Why do you refuse them to be more competitive when they grow up? If they know 2 languages or 3 languages or even more, I think it's not fair for them. And there's nothing to be ashamed of your own language or your own culture. I know that my English is not perfect, but the thing is that I'm proud of my ability to go to another country and live there and learn the language and still speak my mother tongue, and so what, if I just say that some of my friends said, hey, go to Vietnam for a few years like me and see how well you can speak Vietnamese, then you can make fun of my English.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've told this story before, and I've told this joke on stage before. So when we first came to Vietnam, one of our good friends was Mai, and she's Australian Vietnamese, so she lives in Melbourne, and parents are Vietnamese. And so she can speak the language, right? And so her first week in Vietnam, she was talking to a taxi driver in Vietnamese, and he's like, oh my God, your Vietnamese is so good. And she's like, oh, thank you very much. Oh, my parents are Vietnamese. And he's like, oh, your Vietnamese is so bad. Now, one of the things that has come up on this show again and again and again, talking to people similar to yourself, is do they identify as Viet Q? And I know from talking to people, there's no real definition. I know some people who are born in Vietnam, went overseas to study and come back, can be identified or call themselves Viet Q. People who are born overseas, but Vietnamese parents come back. And one of the things you said is you don't like the term Viet Q. So what's your definition of it, and why don't you like it?
Well, if you read about a term, the Viet Q term, originated to call the group of people that have to go, far away to from their motherland, just to get food or to work. It's like like how people have to leave the country to make a living. But at that time, that at that period of time when the term was created, I think it didn't mean well. And also, there was a time that the Vietkill came back here with money. People said, oh, Vietkill, the rich, and try to marry a Vietkill. And then now, when the country so much better, it has a lot of more money, it has a lot more money than before. But, and then they said, oh, Vietkill has no money. The Vietkill have no money. Like, we spend more money than them, than nothing. But the thing is that they forget that, all the money that have been sent overseas, for years and years and years when they were very, very poor. And even now, there's still people that's sending money home, and it makes a big part,
It was in the news just last week. I think it said it had increased lately, the amount of money that's being sent back to Ho Chi Minh from overseas Vietnamese.
Yes. And I just don't feel like we should call each other Vietkill or Vietnamese or whatever. We're just human being, I'm here, then I'm Vietnamese, then when I'm in the US, I'm American, and I don't care if any person come to me and say, oh, you're not American. I say, I am American. I hold a U.S. passport, and regardless, I am American. So I don't want people to frame, other people into something that they want to frame. I'm American because I pay taxes and
Well, you're a citizen?
Yeah, I'm a citizen.
Well, I used to live in America for nearly 5 years. And all my American friends would tease me. They'd be like, oh, you just want to be American. And I was like, if I'd stayed there, I would have gone down that track. But I was like, no, I don't want to be American. I want to be a Scottish person in America. I was like, I loved it. I love being there. I do love America as a country. It's a fantastic place and amazing people. A lot of problems, but a lot of good people as well. Um,
I love my countries. You know, I
mm,
love Vietnam. I love America. So I don't see any reason why I have to be called um this and that. I just want to be called Nikki.
We'll be right back.
Join pilot and adventurer Fernando Pino as he takes you on journeys to discover exciting destinations across the UK and Europe. You'll fly with him to hidden gems and experience local culture, from bustling streets to serene hideaways and the best places to eat, sleep, and play. Travel Plans is more than a podcast. It's your ticket to exploring the world and its history with a friend. In this episode, we are flying to discover a beachside paradise perfect for the whole family. Discover golden sands, activities galore, and even free childcare so you get your own break too. Why am I still here?
so, what do you think if someone identifies, or if you ever met someone in America or here in Vietnam, and they say, "Oh, I'm Viet Q," like, what's your reaction to that?
I usually say just don't call me Vidkil, just I'm me, you know. Or sometimes I just ignore it. But it sometimes it's just just people want to call Vidkil just because they know that you're from overseas. That's all. They don't mean anything. But I think it's just me. I personally don't like that.
But I know that it is a controversial kind of loaded term, and it's individual. So some people, and we've had them on the show, I'll say to them, similar I said to you, or do I introduce you as a VQ or whatnot? And some people are like, yep, yeah, it's fine. You call me a VQ. Then other people are like, no, I'm Swiss Vietnamese or whatnot.
I mean, but then there are people that they think that Vidkil they're better than the Vietnamese too. So that's this. It's very
It's complex,
said,
right?
complex and very conflicting.
Mm.
So I'd rather not get into that. Just I'm Nikki or
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Goba. Goba is the name of my restaurant, and everyone call me with the name of my restaurant too.
The
Or
Koba is a pronoun, right?
huh? Goba.
Is this the pronoun sense? What
Mm-hmm.
does Koba translate?
Goba. Goba means a third uncle.
Third uncle. Third
But
uncle.
yeah, but it has a lot of meaning to it, though. From the region where I'm from,
Yeah.
where my parents from, not where I'm from here in Saigon, but um, it it means a third brother, the third son, the third boss, um, like the underdog in the family.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Many
and
things.
so it means a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the most challenging things about Vietnamese, not only the tones, but the pronouns as well. It's funny, makes me laugh. Now? I don't want to go too deep, but obviously, right now in the States, there's a massive problem with violence against Asians in America, and there's a big campaign, hashtag Stop Asian Hate, which is just horrible to see right now. Have you noticed a change in the years that you've been in America? Has it gotten worse for you or better, or have you?
It got better, and then it got worse.
And I bet I could guess that was probably about 5 years ago it started to get worse.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there's so many Vietnamese people refuse to see that. They refuse to see other people's pain. They refuse to see other Asian people, Vietnamese people that got beaten up until it happened to them.
Right.
And it's sad, and I hate it. I feel like it's a shame that you refuse to see what's going on out there, and they just want to be white, or they just feel like you know I think racism comes in all forms. It's not just white or black or Mexican. We got racist against by blacks people, by Mexicans or other people, other races too. But the thing is that for the past few years, you see that things have changed a lot with COVID and with a lot of things with all the hatred and and division that we are going through. However, Asian people are the community that very quiet, successful in a way. They're being viewed as successful, quiet, and very passive and not very active in community, outside of their own community. And they just feel like, oh, you just, put your head down and do your own thing and everything's gonna pass. And, but now it's different, with all the hatred and with all the name calling and everything. Then, people should go out there and fight for their right, and also fight for justice. And you just can't look at other people being beaten up and say otherwise, that no, we have no racism in this country. Are you out of your mind? Why don't you just get out of Vietnamese town or Chinatown and go somewhere else, go to rural Texas, and and try to see if there's racism out there. Just don't stay in your little hole, and then and speak up for everyone else. And I think it's bad because they speak, and that they write about it on Facebook or social media, or they tell their mm, relatives here that, oh, no, 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 you know black people are troublemakers, blah blah blah. But then they don't see that 400 years of slavery, and then now, um, I mean, it takes a lot more. They need to be more engaged in the country that they call home, and they call their own countries, but they know nothing about it.
Yeah, it's horrible to see right now. And I mean, I can understand the reasons, because someone has been amping all these races up for 5 years, but it's just horrible to see that people take that physical action of beating people up or whatnot. Or I've seen spray paint on businesses, and I don't understand what goes through people's heads, that they think that that's ever appropriate to do, you know?
I think it's because they feel they're not confident in themselves, and they feel useless in a way. You know, they can't better themselves to the level that they can have a better job, or they make their life better. Then they take it out on other people.
Got to blame someone else, right? Instead of, there's a cartoon I've seen for many years. Is one of the most amazing things that kind of rich capitalists, elites, whatever you want to call them, have done, is being able to turn people against each other. So, for example, exactly like you're saying, they'll blame the Mexicans or blame Asians or blame whatever for them not having a job or a well-paying enough job, instead of blaming the people above them, that's not paying the wages or not giving them the right conditions. It's unbelievable trick that they've managed to pull on everyone to be able to turn everyone against each other.
Exactly. And then there are a lot of things that I think that we could do as a community. You know, uh, awareness that we can do with America, and not just America. There's so the world has changed so much, and we integrate so many cultures into each other without smoothing it. And first, that I think people get shocked, and I just feel like there are a lot that need to be done, and it's all through education. All through the education, and everything that you need to fix. You can't fix any problem right away. Um, like I say, I always talk about bonsai. If you wanna want grow a tree, and the trees just grow in different direction that you don't want, and if you want to straighten it up, you can't just straighten it up. It will break. So what do? You get, you know, just day by day. You get a string, pull it up a little bit, you tie it, and next day pull it up a little bit, and eventually, there's no quick fix to it. But then we have to start from somewhere. We all have to start from somewhere.
That's awesome. I like that one. That's a good analogy. I didn't know that about bonsai trees. Right, there you go. Learn something new.
It's not just bonsai, but little trees that you grow. And I saw that with my grandmother, and she grew a chili tree, a chili pepper tree, and that's how she did.
Oh, cool.
And I asked her, Grandma, why don't you just pull it? And she said, No, you pull it, it breaks right away. So you have to pull it slowly every day, every day.
Oh, cool. I like that. So tell me then, how did you go from a drunken decision of I'm opening up a street food restaurant or a street side restaurant to being on Netflix? I'm assuming that's similar. It was just a small day by day. It didn't happen quickly.
I think actually for me, I think it happened very quickly.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was just lucky. When I cooked, I didn't know how to cook Vietnamese food very well. And of course, being in Texas and eating crawfish almost every day in crawfish season there, I loved crawfish. And when I came back to Vietnam, I had 2 big bags of Louisiana crab boil seasoning. I thought that, when I go back to Vietnam, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try Vietnamese seafood. The seafood in Vietnam, all fresh and live, to feed to my family, to treat my family. And then when I started cooking, I said, man, I can't compete. I have to think of some different ways to make myself different. And then I make Cajun shrimp, and I make Cajun dishes, and then I also, my first job in Vietnam was to work for my aunt, and I worked at an organic farm, and at that time it was still something very new and very, very new, and people didn't get used to that term yet, used to organic vegetables yet. So I introduced to my street food restaurant. And I introduced asparagus to street food, and everyone loved it. Then the words got around, and at that time Facebook was not as popular as now, that every time you turn in you see like 10,000 ads running. But at that time it was still word of mouth. So, and people started talking a lot, and then I started having a large crowd, and I have a lot of expats, or I have a lot of foreigners. I have a lot of tourists just pass by and eat, and then the Vietnamese.
Where was the restaurant or the street food?
McDinty Street, and also in District 1. And then people started talking about it, and just one day, someone called me and said, "Hey, we want to interview you for something." And but first I just opened, and then I got the first I think on the January 1st, I got on Asia Lives magazine. That was just a short time after I opened the restaurant. So I think I got very lucky, and then I got written up by some other English newspaper or magazines, and I got on airline magazine too. I mean, it's such a short time, but I think I was very lucky at that time with everything that came all at once. And then someone called me and asked me, and I didn't know what Netflix was, and I didn't even know the person that was going to I was going to host with him or to be in the show with him. I really didn't know at all until I met him, and then I started reading more about him. Uh, because at that time I was still cooking in the kitchen. I had my restaurant. I was in the kitchen all the time. You know, early in the morning, I still had to do my um, because I try to do ingredients, no MSG, no sugar, and then um, safe to eat vegetable and seafood. I sources in Phu Quoc Island, and all very it has to be healthy and safe to eat. So I spend a lot of time doing the shopping and cooking. So by the time I get to bed, then I'm all tired. So I didn't read a lot until I got into that show. And I met Phil, and he turned out to be one of the greatest person that I've ever met in my life. He changed my life. With another person, was his name is Chris Shefford. But anyways, Phil, until now, he's still a very, very good friend of mine. We still keep in touch, and he's such a big celebrity, but he doesn't act like a celebrity at all. He's very down to earth, very uh, compassionate. He's really, really nice. I just love him. Um, and yeah, it's just I got on Netflix, and then for some reason, people just started calling me, and then after cooking, Cajun style. Now I'm all over. I have a sushi restaurant, and I have a noodle restaurant. And I start to learn more, more and more and more. And then now I'm going to, I've been finding the lost recipes of Vietnam, and that's my passion now. Fish sauce and the lost recipes of Vietnam that my grandmother used to cook for me, and then the dishes that's so complicated or so simple, um, that people don't make anymore.
At what point, when was the first time you were given the label celebrity chef?
I I went back to the U.S. I opened my restaurants, and all of a sudden I opened a newspaper, and then they already knew. They're like, well, a celebrity, Netflix star coming to Houston.
So you weren't the one putting it out there. You weren't like calling yourself it.
No, no.
I did, obviously I did a quick bit of research on you. By research I mean I googled your name, and I found an article that you did something in Ballarat.
Yes, yes.
I've been to Ballarat.
Oh, really?
I used to live in Melbourne. I thought that was so funny. It's a beautiful little town, right? So that just made me laugh that you've been to Ballarat. How did you end up there?
Oh, my I was just some of my fans on Facebook. She called me one time. She texted me. She's like, "Could I talk to you?" I said yes, and I just saw that we had no relation, or I don't know this person. But she's like, "Could I talk to you?" I said yes, and then she's like, "I've been following you on Facebook, and but I opened a restaurant in Ballarat, and I have some difficulty." So I just gave her advice, like, and then I encouraged her and kind of talk her out of depression. She wasn't depressed, but she felt like she it was really hard for her to do it because she didn't know how to cook, and she had to rely on a chef that he um maybe they was just too different. They didn't agree on a lot of things.
I assume she was Vietnamese.
She was Vietnamese.
background.
Yeah, she was Vietnamese, and her husband was Australian. And then she came back to Vietnam on New Year, the Lunar New Year, and we started talking, and then she said that her chef left, and she invited me to go to Australia. I said, "Oh wow, cool! I've never been to Australia. I've been to Europe and other continents, but not Australia. So let's go. So I went there, and then just hang out with her and her husband, and I show them some dishes, just to cook and just show her how to run the restaurant. And then we have become very good friends too until now.
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah, so random. That was when I read that article. I think it opened with celebrity chef. That was the first time I read it. One of the signs I always say of a good podcast interview and episode is when we could just keep on talking all day. And I feel like I could just keep talking. There's so much I want to ask you, but we should wrap it up. So we're going to move on to the final questions that I ask everyone on season 6. Now, the first question is, and I'm interested to hear your reaction as a chef. Have you tried durian?
I have.
And what do you think of it?
I think it's like blue cheese.
That's the first time it's been compared to blue cheese, and I think that's perfect.
Yes, some people love it, some people hate it. The people that love it, they really really love it, or the people that hate it, they really hate it.
It's really divisive, isn't it? If there's no, I've never met anyone that's in the middle. That's yeah, it's okay. You either hate it or you love it. So which one are you?
Um, I love it, but I don't love it that much because to me, I think it's just too rich. I have one or two. That's it, but not like something that I'm craving for a lot.
Eating one or two, I think, is impressive. I can't do it. I'm not a fan. Now, the next question. I normally, in the previous seasons, I've asked about motorbikes because the name of the podcast, 7 Million Bikes, is because there are now over 8 million motorbikes in Saigon alone, over 60 million in Vietnam. But I've changed it up. As a Saigoneer yourself, you'll have noticed, as we talked about already, the increasing wealth in Vietnam and in Saigon. And one of the ways that you can notice that is the cars, right? There's so many nice cars now in Saigon. You see on a daily basis a Rolls Royce, a Bentley, a Maserati. But recently I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this, the paint jobs are terrible. People are buying these really expensive cars and then making them just look disgusting. An example I've been given every episode is I saw a bedazzled Mercedes. So this was a beautiful Mercedes-Benz. The whole thing was glitter, like silver glitter. I saw a Porsche that had decals put on it to make it look like the car from Cars. Lightning McQueen, is that his name? So this is blowing my mind. So for you, what's the craziest car that you've seen in Saigon recently?
I've seen a wooden Ferrari.
Wait, what? A wooden Ferrari?
Yes.
In Saigon?
In Saigon.
Made to look like wood or actually wood?
I think it was actually wood.
Okay, that might be the winner of so far, a wooden Ferrari.
Yes, a wooden Ferrari, and then I think the whoever that drives it must be a fanatic of Ferrari.
So we talked again earlier about understanding different cultures. So that for me, I cannot understand this culture here of buying a beautiful car and then bedazzling it or making it wood. Can you explain the cultural thought process to doing that?
I think it's just people want attention.
It's just simple.
Yeah, in the US, people really don't care what car you drive unless you're dating someone. Not always the case, but people don't really care what car you drive. Not as much as here. But then here, maybe when they buy a car, some people do want attention. Some people do feel like, oh, it's my car, my dream car. Then maybe I should do something fun with it. And I'm sorry. Another thing is that it's really cheap to change.
But what blows my mind is these cars are so beautiful, so expensive, like maybe a $500,000 car. That's attention enough. Like people are going to be like, wow, look at that car. It's just next level. Anyway, I could go on all day about these cars. My next question is, what is something that happens in Vietnam that would look strange in America?
Of course, picking your nose.
That's been brought up before, yeah, definitely. That was when I first moved here. Was you couldn't understand going to a coffee shop and seeing a guy with his finger like knuckle deep up his nose.
And then another thing is that kissing, not mouth kissings, but here, people kiss differently. Like when I came back here, I had a girlfriend here, and then I kissed her on a cheek, and she's like, "No, you don't love me." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "You don't kiss the right way," And then my girlfriend went to my other girlfriend, uh, when not my other, but the girlfriend after she went to the U.S. with me, and when she kissed me, and then my employee said, "Oh, she's sniffing you. She's not kissing you." I'm like, "No, Vietnamese do that. They're sniffing, and they call that kissing.
That's a new one then. I didn't know that one. Well, conversely, what's something that is done in America that would look strange in Vietnam?
Waving. It's funny. Um, in America, we wave people with the finger upward like this, you know.
We're not going to be able to. Can we? You're going to have to try and explain that because people can't see what you're doing.
And yeah, it's like you put your hand,
It's like if you beckon someone, right?
Yeah,
It's different.
Yeah. Yes. You're like, "Hey, come here, let's go," or you just do your finger like this. I don't know how you describe it,
You have
but
your palm up,
your
right?
palm, yeah, your palm up, and then
Beckon
you're
someone.
becking the fingers. But then here in Vietnam, but when we do it and do this, with your palm
Palm
up
down.
down, then it's just for little kids or for dogs or cat.
Yeah.
But here is vice versa. So one time I call my girlfriend. I'm like, "Em ơi, let's go," and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, let's go," and like she's like, "You so disrespectful."
These are the cultural differences that you need to know. I didn't learn that one until I'd been here like 2 or maybe even 3 years that I learned that it's different. Because to me, if you have it's hard if you if you don't know what we're talking about, but if you have your palm down and you beckon someone, it's really rude in the West.
Yes.
Whereas here, that's just normal, like come here. And yes, cultural differences, right? And final question, what advice would you give to yourself before you went to America for the first time?
I think I would give myself advice of not being too sensitive of the new things around me, so that I wouldn't get too culture shocked, and also not to, I would be more confident. I have to get more confidence just going out there, being out there, talking to people, and whatever that people do differently from me or from the people that in my own country, then it's just because they're different, you know.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you very, very much. This has been awesome. I've really enjoyed our chat. Tell our listeners, where can they eat at your restaurant? Where can they see you on Netflix? Where can they read about you? Go.
Yes. Hi, everyone. You could find me on Netflix with Somebody Feed Phil and David Chang, Ugly Delicious, and Street Food. And with a show on NBC, it's called The Travel Voyager. Uh, and you could eat my restaurant at 2502 Dunlavy, Houston, Texas 77006. And you could eat at my restaurant here in Vietnam. I have a sushi bar, an oyster bar, a noodle house, and a seafood occasion restaurant, all in District 1 on Hoàng Sa Street and Trần Nhật Duật, Tân Định, Dwight, also in District 1.
Sweet. And any more restaurants in the pipeline, or are you taking a break now? It seems like you've got enough.
Honestly, in the beginning of the pandemic, I just stopped wanting to expand. But now I love Vietnamese food, and the reason why I opened my restaurant in the US, not to make money. Of course, when you open a business, is you have to make money. But the reason why I opened a restaurant in the US, because I want to prove to people that there are so much more. So there's so much more than pho and spring roll and banh mi. You know, Vietnamese food, you love it, there's so many more, dishes that Vietnam has to offer to the world. That I want to bring that. I want to bring that outside of my community. So my restaurant in is like in Midtown Houston, and I want to introduce more to other people outside my communities about Vietnamese food. So it's not just about pho. It's not about banh mi. And I don't go there to make cheap pho. I don't go there to make cheap pho. I go there to introduce to people, how dynamic and how, creative Vietnamese food is. And I really want to open another noodle bar that sells all kinds of noodles. You here, so you should know what I'm talking about.
Well, we're gonna go and eat some Mekong Delta satay noodles for lunch, so let's go and do that. I'm hungry now. All this talk of food has made me very hungry. Quick last question. I told you I could keep talking. Last question. Give a very quick answer. What do Vietnamese people in Houston think of Viet Gin food, like fusion of Vietnamese and Cajun food?
They created that.
They like it?
They like it.
Yeah.
But I think they should be more proud of it, because it's just in their life, so they don't see it as something that they should appreciate. Should be proud of themselves. We are the one that bring crawfish and Cajun to life outside of Texas and Louisiana.
That's pretty cool. Let's go eat food. I'm starving now. Thank you very much, Nickie. This was awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers. Let's go. Thanks very much for listening to this episode of 7 Million Bikes, a Vietnam podcast. Don't forget to subscribe from wherever you're listening from right now. Turn on the notifications as well so you never miss an episode. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you go back through. We got 5 seasons of amazing guests that you can listen to their stories as well. Please get in touch. I always love to hear from our listeners. It's one of the best things when I wake up in the morning and I open up Instagram or Facebook and I've had a message from someone telling me that they've been listening from America or Australia or anywhere in the world. So please let me know where you're listening from, or Vietnam as well, obviously. I always love to hear from people. I want to give a massive thank you again to our Patreon members, Brandon Thompson and Zion Johnson. If you do enjoy this content, you can support 7 Million Bikes of Vietnam podcast on Patreon. The link is in the show notes. You can become a member of a Vietnam podcast and get access to exclusive member benefits like free tickets to comedy shows or even a free 7 Million Bikes t-shirt as well. So check that out in the show notes, as I said. And you can also buy me a coffee or a beer if you want on coffee.com. So make sure you check that out. So thanks again for listening. Really hope you enjoy season 6 and you can stay tuned for the future episodes. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're like me, you may use your laptop at places where you have to use public Wi-Fi. This opens you up to digital snoopers. It's a massive problem. It can be your internet service provider, or you know who, looking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal trying to steal your bank passwords or credit card info, or even a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. These days, it is vital that you keep your data safe. NordVPN keeps all of these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites that are phishing for your data, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely even while away from home. And it's easy to use, even I could use it. I've actually been using NordVPN for years now here in Vietnam, and I'm excited to be an affiliate partner with them. I've used NordVPN to watch Netflix, BBC, Disney Plus with ease, and I also know that my information and data are safe from prying eyes, whoever they may be. Join now and you'll get 68% off and 3 months free when you go to my link, nordvpn.com/SMB. Just again, for those hard of hearing, nordvpn.com/SMB. The link is also in the show notes. I know nobody checks them out, but go check that out and you can get the link from wherever you are listening to this podcast. As an affiliate partner, it also means that I will get a small commission when you sign up, but at no extra cost to you. So not only will you be getting a great deal through 7 Million Bikes, you get a great VPN and you'll be supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast. Stay safe online and enjoy the shows you love. Any questions, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And thanks for listening to this show. Cheers.